Jovan, there is something that was just released that has me concerned because we are getting closer and closer to the 2024 election. And it's the fact that CISA and the FBI have put out this joint statement about attacks on the computer systems as we head into the 2024 elections. Are these genuine warnings to the American people? Or is this some kind of setup for cheating? Help me understand this situation.
Not a problem. What they're talking about is called DDoS attacks, and it's where you send bots or computers, and they just hammer a computer so much, make it so busy that it can't be used. Now, think about that for a moment. Our election systems have air gaps, or so they say. Really, the only air gap that I know of in practice is the space between Maxine Waters' left ear and right ear, but that's a different type of air gap, right? They say they're not connected to the internet. But they're warning us that when it comes to election time, we might have huge foreign bad actors, DDoS attacks that will shut down our elections. If they're not connected to the internet, how can they be attacked? So the reality is, yes, they're connected to the internet, even though they lie about how it's done. But the second part of it, if you just flood it with traffic, it will suspend everything that's going on. But let me tell you what's really happened. It's what they did in 2020. This gives them the plausible ability to say, hey, we're going to get attacked, foreign adversaries. This is what Russia was about. We need to put more security measures in place to make sure this one's safe. And what they end up doing is going into counties and cities who say, oh, no, we don't want this to shut down. What do you do? And they say, hey, just put this piece of software on and we'll take care of it. That's how they know every vote at every time, when and where it's cast and how it's voted. It's actually a backdoor, and it shows that they're planning something for the 2024 election.
Dang it. That was my worry. Another worry I have is I feel like even though the Republicans, and I don't want to bum anyone out, but the Republicans say, oh, we have a huge list of lawyers ready to go on election day. I don't think that matters. Look at all of the footwork that Hillary Clinton's attorney, Mark Elias, over 650 election-changing lawsuits, and Republicans didn't even show up for 600 of those court meetings. How far behind the ball are we already as we head into the election?
Well, number one, that was planned. You got to remember 40 years ago, the Republicans agreed to never sue about lawsuits. Yeah, check it out. And they did a consent decree. We won't fight it. That's why nobody on the right's allowed to fight election fraud. We won't sue the Democrats. It lifted right when President Trump went into term 2. It's a form of lawfare. They just consent decree. And those 650 suits, you talked about 600, they didn't show up. That's a consent decree that they did. You don't need an attorney until the thing's gone wrong. So let me ask you a question. It's like the Republican Party saying, we're so ready for things to go wrong. We're going to wait for them to go wrong, and then we're going to walk the attorneys in. I just have to say, how did that work out before? It is in reverse. It is playing defense, not offense. We should be right now using attorneys to sue in every city and get TROs because the government's not enforcing the border. And now that they've matched it with motor voter, they're lining them up to turn them into voters to allow them to vote. That damages you. That's what we should be fighting. I have zero confidence in the GOP and zero confidence in the election protection abilities of the RNC.
Yeah, dang. I wanted to get your thoughts on this rising popularity of Kamala Harris. 4 weeks ago, she was an untalked about, unskilled vice president that almost nobody heard from or understood when she did speak. Now she is the smartest woman. She is, projected to be the greatest first lady president of our country. What are your thoughts on this rise to fame so quickly? Is this just the propaganda machine going crazy?
Well, best analogy to understand that would be breast implants. And what I mean by that is they just stick them in and all of a sudden, wow, look at that. It's synthetic. It's fake. It's not real. It is designed to hold the agenda, designed to scrub your mind, designed that if you hear it enough, that you will in fact believe it. It's just like everybody thinks there's Dominion voting machines. They're not. They're a software company, but you keep on saying Dominion voting machines. It is all a ploy. It's why you hear politicians say, we got to save democracy. We got to fight for a democracy when we have a constitutional republic. It's all fluff. It's all synthetic. And so it's just lipstick and rouge on a pig.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I worry though that, Donald Trump was doing so well against Joe Biden that now I can't tell the difference between whether people are actually encouraged by her or if the whole thing is synthetic, as you say, because, they keep promoting how much money she's raised, how popular she is. She had a lower approval rating than him. Suddenly she's highly approved. It's making me a little bit anxious, to be honest.
That's the design, because remember, in information warfare, there are two end games to make you change your mind. In other words, go from one side to the other. That's the ultimate game. But there's something that's equally of value, and that's to get you to be so confused you make no decision, because see, then they've made you inactive. It is all 100% synthetic. But I've always told people this is not about Joe Biden, and this is not about Kamala Harris. This is about the system wagging the puppets, right? Wagging the puppets. And those are willing puppets who have sold their soul to do this. And it's information warfare for our minds, but none of it is absolutely real. The media is trying to convince you that Donald Trump's behind, but all you have to do is look at Google. And when they're censoring, which I told people would come, when they're censoring Trump assassination attempt and the photos of it and scrubbing it from the internet, we are all in one massive psychological warfare, but they always play for the weakest minds. All of this is about the weakest minds. And so what they're going to do is they're going to play to white female guilt. I believe that's a huge play. I believe part of the white female guilt is, I really think, over abortion, right? It is taking a life. It was a life to begin with, but they absolve you of your sins. And that white female guilt locks into that because it makes them feel better because you're told you didn't do anything wrong, basically. Your choice, yes, but I understand it. The other side of it is they're letting illegals vote. They're bringing them across the border. They're signing a piece of paper that I came to America to work. They say, okay, you'll promise to pay taxes, right? And they say, sure. They sign a little piece of paper when they come across the border. They give them a Social Security card. They line them up at the Department of Transportation, get them driver's license, and they go, oh, give me a form of ID. They hand over a Social Security card, and they go, oh, you must be a citizen. Boom. They immediately put them in voter motor. Now they're registered to vote, and those are the two rigs that are going on. But they're going to try to distract us, just like putting out polls in the 5 sensitive states that either Kamala's winning or her and Trump are neck and neck. It's to make you believe, because people want to do what's popular. They're not going to say Kamala has 13%, right? They're going to say she's neck and neck with Trump because they want you to believe people are changing their minds and going with her because people like to do what other people are doing. And that's the psychological warfare as they crap in your cranium.
Is this kind of like with Arizona, where they called the state before the polls were even closed so that people might jump out of line or say, oh, I'm not going to vote. If Trump's already lost, what's the point of me standing here filling out this ballot? Is that the kind of getting people to just kind of give up?
Absolutely. It has been a long practice of the media, who is not our friend, to say we're getting reports that the polling places have 2 and 3 hour lines. Why is that? Because you'll say, screw it, I got something to do. I got to take the kids to soccer. It's also part of the rig where they just make the machine screw up and not work for a few hours. That's to turn you away. If they can turn you away, they know you're not going to get there. It's also one of the tricks where 2 weeks before the election, they actually change the address your normal polling place is at, especially in areas with seniors who are voting Republican. They'll just move it, 6 miles away. A senior goes to the old place, finds it's not open. They don't have GPS or stuff like that. They don't try to go to the other place. So all of this is psychological warfare. So yes, if they can put out over the airways that there's going to be long lines or there's going to be complication. Again, it's that crapping in your cranium to make you go, it's not worth it. This has been too stressful. Again, you either vote for the dark side, or instead of being strong like you should be and not believing the media, you just kind of wimp in the corner that I don't want to go through it. It gets you to the same place because they won you over by inaction.
Okay. I'm also reading on Twitter that there's a big campaign pushing that, people were on the fence and they were going to vote for Donald Trump because they were so worried about the mental capacity of Joe Biden. But now with him stepping aside, they're abandoning Trump in droves in order to support a young, vibrant, up-and-coming Kamala Harris. Is this also just psychological warfare?
Yeah, let me tell you how far back it goes. Here is a party that basically screamed about old white men. And then all of a sudden they chose Joe Biden. And you're going, wait a minute, you chose an old, broken white dude, but they ignore it. Now, why did they really choose it? I told people this 3.5 years ago. They're going to hot swap Biden at the end. What have they done? They've hot swapped Biden at the end. In that hot swap, knowing what they were going to do because they're way ahead of us, now they have somebody young in and they get to point to Trump, who they knew would come roaring back. He's the old white dude. I think this is all by design. But one thing I've learned about all those people sitting on the fence, one thing's absolutely sure about sitting on the fence, you get splinters in your crack.
Yeah.
So you got to decide, do you want to have splinters in crack and be irritated because you are so wishy-washy that you can't make a choice? Why don't you set your choice aside? Maybe vote for your kids, or maybe vote for your grandkids, or maybe vote for the people you love to continue to be able to be an American, have free liberties. Think about that when you sit on the fence.
Okay. Just out today, Harvard-Harris poll shows 69% of Americans believe if Kamala Harris wins, she will leave the U.S. border wide open.
Yes.
And they are concerned about that, but maybe not enough to change their vote.
Well, let's think about what the triangulation is here. People can judge her by her actions. The border czar who never visited the border, who now claims she wasn't a border czar and has the tech companies hiding it. So people have a right to realize she didn't do her job and the administration didn't do their job. But then there's this little trick they've been pulling on us. What do you mean? You're a misogynist? You hate women? You're racist? A woman of color? A BIPOC? Are you kidding me? People care more about getting shamed than facts, and shame makes people do things against their better judgment.
Yeah. Wow. What do you know about this story that's coming out where suddenly attorneys generals are actually looking into this? It's called Act Blue, where it is claimed that Democrats are using voter names to funnel thousands of donations to the tune of hundreds of millions of dollars to the Democrat Party. Do you know much about this Act Blue story?
Well, to answer you very honestly, don't hold your breath to something happen because you'll turn blue. And the story is 4 years ago. That's when we started talking about it. That's when we started sharing information on it. And so here's what you really should think about it. I'll put it in terms of the GOP. When it comes to election ballots, you have to keep that and all information with the election stored according to statutes, U.S. Code 42, 1974 and 1984, and then U.S. Code 52, 20-701, not that to remember it, but those is what it is if you look it up. And you have to keep all of your election information stored for 22 to 24 months. I met zero lawmakers when I started doing this that knew of that law. And I kept on telling them, look, they're going to destroy the ballots and the evidence. You better get going. Well, the GOP finally took action. They filed 72 lawsuits and they got them all ready to go. They got them all filed, and now they just have to serve the people. And they did that 24 hours before the term expired. And so, yes, everybody got to destroy them. But the GOP, knowing what they did, and they didn't even serve the people yet, go, We filed 72 lawsuits to protect you. It's all a game.
Okay. I saw today that Rasmussen polling put out that Donald Trump has survived the honeymoon bump of Kamala Harris, meaning she did have this meteoric rise. They raised a lot of money. They took the Joe Biden coffer and shifted it into her name illegally, but they're still going to do it. And they're claiming, she has all this money going into the final days. But according to Rasmussen, they are saying that Donald Trump, according to their polling data and also the betting websites, has survived this bump. Any thoughts on that?
I love the folks at Rasmussen. They're incredible and they do great work. That's number one. If I'm going to believe any poll, I'm going to believe them over anything else. Number two, people understand that money, because they've now kind of learned, a little too late, but they've learned that that's all synthetic and all fake. And you're seeing enough, thank God for open social media, being able to show it in real time that it's funny money. And there's been enough talk about the swap over of Biden's award chest that people are beginning to question it. And so I don't think people are going to fall for it. And I think when you ask reasonable people what's going on, they know it's a rig. But look, when they tell you, look at all these people who donated, everybody must be for her. But then you go find one donor in Austin, Texas, a man on retirement, can barely hobble to answer the front door. And then you find out that, have you really given in the last year and a half, $162,000 to the Democrats for Kamala Harris? And he just almost falls out of his seat going, what? Yeah. This is a racket. But it's how they've been doing it to us. But you got to understand, this is a gift. It's a gift to now see it. Here's an interesting theory I have. Yes, we're finding people that have had donations in their name. There is a paperwork trail. Why don't we just help those people who this has been done to get refunds? You got the paperwork proving it, and all they have to know is, well, I didn't do that. I'd like my $162,000 back. What if we focused on that and we just cratered their finances? It could be done if we paid attention.
Yeah. How come we don't have smart people like you running the GOP?
Smartness doesn't work. People really don't like the truth. And frankly, it's too much work. And I'll give you a grand example of how this works. I could be talking to, and I won't name any names, but a W, that means ultra high net worth individual, that if they wanted to stroke $1 billion check, it would be no sweat off their back. But in fighting this cause, they actually say, dang, I still got kids in college. And if people found out I donated this money, they're going to cancel my kids. See, that's how cancel culture works. And those high net worth individuals are terrified. Even if I still do it sheltered, it's going to be found out. And that's how they get people to stand down. Well, the GOP plays into that. They don't want smart people around. They want people who just go along with the system. And the number one trait they want from you is not smarts, not fixing this for America, but can you raise a lot of money? So their values are not aligned with ours, but all of this can be fixed with easy common sense.
Okay. Do you see a difference in Rona McDaniels and Lara Trump in the way that they're running the RNC?
Well, I know Lara. First thing I would say, the difference might be about 223 pounds. That would be my first thing. Lara is smart.
Okay.
Rona's an operative. Lara is smart. But Lara did not get put there to run it as a business. Lara got put there because of name, and she can raise a lot of money, and people pay attention. I can tell you, inside all of our circles of people who really deal with this, as I'm trying to fight for this early on, even before 2020 and after 2020 and what was done, Rona didn't make a single meeting, wouldn't pick up the phone call, wouldn't return an email or anything else. And that's it. She's a Romneyite. That's exactly what it is. We should expect that of her. Now, Lara, on the other hand, I know firsthand cares about this. She's an incredibly smart woman, very savvy, right? Very, very savvy. Don't let her beauty fool you at all. She's as tough as nails. But she's being dropped into a machine that is broken, surrounded by people who only want to keep their jobs, but can only regurgitate stuff that's worked for 30 or 40 years. That's the difference. So can Lara be effective? She may, in many ways, already be neutered and not know it. Should she get rid of more people that have been embedded with her that don't know what really should be done? She should. But I can tell you on our side, there's only about 6 people in the United States that really know what's going on and how to fix it. She's not picking up the phone. They're not having meetings. And the reason is it's going to the head of election integrity, who kind of has her own mind made up of what should happen. And she doesn't know what should result. And since it comes in for election integrity, she kills the meeting before it ever happens. And none of us are getting through to Lara.
Okay. Wow. That's too bad. What were your thoughts on these recent developments down in Georgia, where it's essentially been proven that there was shenanigans with the ballots, the ballot images? I had Garland Favorito on, and he said, yes, it's led to a lot of new laws that he believes will help protect the 2024 election, but not maybe insulate it from cheating. Are we still going to see shenanigans in a swing state like Georgia?
Well, since I'm intimately there, and I know Garland Favorito very well, thank him for being out in front. He's the face for a client that's actually behind him that has the standing in the suit. We were 2 weeks away from beginning a full forensic audit in Arizona. We'd already had access to the ballots being granted. We were already getting the equipment and everything arranged for it. And then a Republican released information we were trying to keep quiet. It made him quite a social media star. In fact, he wrote it to becoming the new vice chair of the RNC there. But what it did is it exposed information we didn't want exposed. It terrified everybody. They sent in more DC attorneys, and the judge kind of stepped away. That's the first part. We do it to ourselves. Next, I don't think the ballots that we're hoping are still there after years are still there. That's a bomb waiting to come. But what the bad guys did there is, okay, we'll admit to this if you won't prosecute to this. But we have a lot of phony answers that are floating around. One of them's in Georgia. They're basically saying we are securing the ballot with currency grade ballot. We're going to have a hologram on it. It's going to have a serial code, everything else. Now, let me pose 2 questions to you. The first question is, the machines don't read the security codes and don't recognize that there's a holographic thing there. So the machines, when it reads in, can't tell you if it's a Kleenex or can't tell you it's the right paper. Does that move the needle if you have this secure paper? No, it does not. Then the second part of it is, okay, well, at least you have paper with the security code and stuff in it. That means to investigate it, you have to do what? You have to be able to look at the paper closely and forensically to verify it. And oh no, they don't allow that. And by the way, you can't touch the paper. So what did that move to move the election security ball? Nothing. Now, the other part of it is what they're not telling you. And that was one of the security measures they did. We demanded security paper. It's worthless. What they're not telling you is the actual elected officials that went around and promoted that went on the road show for the company that makes that. They kind of neglect to tell you they got paid to do it. They got options in the company. Some of them get 25 cents a ballot. I think that's a conflict of interest, but they're allowed to do it.
Yeah. Oh man. Feels like we're being outsmarted at every angle.
No, they just understand that we don't relish truth and pay attention. It's biblical in nature. Let me give you an example. Mary Magdalene, who was cast in the Bible as a whore, was exactly quite the opposite. She was a big leader with a lot of money supporting Jesus and his apostles. But when the church got involved from a patriarchy, moving it, from a matriarchy, moving it to a patriarchy, the woman couldn't be divine. The woman couldn't be listened to. So they kind of rewrote her history and branded her a whore. This stuff happens all the time. Within the circles of our own movement, they will, oh, you don't know nothing, or you're not Jesus enough, or you're not this, or they're a grifter, all this. And they use that to push everybody away from the truth. It's called the Delution Protocol. It still works today. It's still in play. And frankly, it's the whole political system that does it, but there's not people that actually understand what it means. Simple things like, okay, we're going to let you look at the physical ballot. And then you get there, you think you're going to get all of the ballots in boxes. No, here's how it works. They say, okay, which ballot do you want? And you go, what do you mean? You go, well, I got it. You can't touch them. I can touch them. So you got to tell me what ballot. And I go, I don't know what to say what ballot. Well, we got 10,435 batches. Which batch number do you want? So let's say you pick 10,000 just for giggles. Okay. And then they say, well, they're in this box. There's 8 ballots. There's 1,000 ballots. Which one do you want in there? And you say, okay, well, give me ballot number 100. They leave. They go find it. They come in. Then they stand behind a glass wall and they put it up on the glass wall. You got to be 6 feet away and say, okay, here it is. And here's the bat. Now, which other one do you want to see? Now, do you understand what just happened? You can't touch it. You can't feel it. You really can't see it. That's their guidelines for looking at it. And you think you're going to go through 2 million ballots to do that, where they have to run and do that one at a time, and it says it can only be them and move it one at a time? No, it's all a con. But this is what happens. People get confused by keywords. We're going to do a full forensic audit. I'll tell you a true story. I heard from someone online that fantastic, Joanne's doing a full forensic audit in Tarrant County. And I said, what are you talking about? I'm not doing and remember, I grew up in Texas. I call myself a Texan. I go, I'm not doing a full forensic audit in Tarrant County. I go, where are you hearing this from? And they said, well, this lady with the GOP saying they're doing a full forensic audit and they're scanning the ballots and they got the guy that did the full forensic audit in Arizona. Well, that's me on all cases. So I get the lady's number and I call her. She's been with the GOP, we'll just call it 40 years. And I said, I hear you're doing a full forensic audit. Tell me about it. Yeah, we're getting the ballots scanned in and we're getting images of them. And we got the guy that did the Arizona audit. And I go, well, just so you know, number one, I'm the patent holder of this technology. I am the guy that actually did it for Arizona, my team. And I said, I apologize, but I don't know who you are. Who's this person you're talking about in Arizona that did the full forensic audit? Without naming names to embarrass him, he's a lawmaker that ran, lost, and wants to be a lawmaker again, claiming he was one of the leads. No such thing. So once I get through that stuff, I go, well, what resolution are you scanning the ballots in? At least kind of let me help you guide you through this. And she goes, well, they're doing them all at 300 DPI, which is the minimum standard. I go, that's great. I go, how many people you got scanning? She goes, well, none. I go, well, how are you getting them scanned? And she said the following, well, the county is scanning them for us. Now I'm going, wait a minute. I know all the fight we went through. You're telling me that the county is scanning each ballot? She goes, yeah, they're going to do it for us. I go, can I see one? She goes, well, we don't have them yet. We're supposed to have them in a week. So I said, look, I'll call you back in about a week. About a week later, I call her and said, how's the scanning coming? Can I see one yet so I can kind of help you? She says, well, we don't have them yet. They say it's just going to be a few more days. All in all, I did that little bitty dance like 3 or 4 times. And then I finally put my foot down and said, let me ask you a question. How long have you been waiting on these scanned ballots? She said, well, I guess it's been about 7 months now. And I said, hold the brakes. I said, I want you to tell me one thing. I want you to call them and you demand to see one sample of the scanned ballot they're scanning because you need it to confirm the quality. She said, okay. I get an email. In the email, I'm looking at a piece of paper. And on the paper, it has a Q code, which of course, all the Scan to Connect, Scan Commerce, those are all my patents. That's why it works on your mobile phone. That's why my patents is all on all 15 billion mobile devices. I'm the one that made them talk. And you see the things. And I called the lady and I said, I thought they were scanning the ballots. She said they were scanning the ballots. I sent you one. I said, I'm looking at a ballot receipt, not a ballot. I said, a ballot is what people mark to vote so we can make sure it was voted by a human or whatever. And she says, oh, I didn't know that. Well, we don't have those. It's on a marking device. And we've always called that the ballot. She didn't even know what the ballot was. totally non-audible. That's the problem we have out there. And the GOP raises money off this, plays favors to people who don't know it, plays favors to people that kiss their butt. They don't care about experience. Talk it, walk it, raise money, get to the pizza party, raise money, join the club, be a poll worker, raise money. Nothing to do with what's doing right or teaching people. And that's the sad state of affairs. And if you call them out on it, they're just going to attack you. That is how disorganized this effort is.
Wow. Oh, this is why I love having you on my show. I feel like I learn like 100 things every time you come on.
I know it's a fire hose, and I'm sorry, but it's not even a fire hose anymore. We're drinking out of Niagara Falls.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yes. What are your thoughts on the Trump assassination attempt and the investigation that they're doing? I don't have a lot of confidence in government investigations, but what are your thoughts on that whole situation?
The Trump assassination is the only thing that gives me comfort we're going to win. And here's how I mean that, knowing the man personally. The only thing that matters to me is he turned his head from the split-second kill shot, just enough in that turning of his head to look that it went through his ear. That was a kill shot. That was not a kid that did it. And that tells me God's watching over us. In a nanosecond, it could have been so different. We came 1 inch away from losing the man. And that tells me God's watching. And God just may have us pull through this. But that's going to require our active participation. As far as the shooter, I've done, I think so far, 8 hours of forensic analysis now on the shooting and everything. Yes, there are multiple shooters involved, but it's not like people saying from the water tower, that's crap. That's total crap. We're going to find out even more. I do not believe the kid was necessarily the bad actor they portrayed it to. I do believe he was a patsy. I believe the shot came from behind him within his line of sight. All of the forensics lead me to believe, with the delays and everything else, it being exactly 29 minutes when he's poised to shoot, that they stood down. I think it was all intentional. It concerned me when President Trump went the other day and spoke at the National Broadcast Journalists Association, because they delayed that one exactly 29 minutes. Most people didn't pick up on that. And so I worried that something was wrong. I think they're going to try it again. I really do. I pray for the president, but I think they're going to try it again. If they don't try it again, they're probably going to try something at the DNC and blame it on us. But we are getting more information, and thank God for Twitter, and thank God for what Elon Musk did in opening that up, because we can see with our own eyes and do it. But it does not help people getting out there and getting clicks that say, I found the shooter on top of the water tower and he was tied by a zip tie and he repelled and a government vehicle picked him up. That's all crap. Total crap. I've already shown everything, the forensics, the photos and everything. We have to get away from the BS promotion. We got to get right down to the facts. But you know what? Here's the deal, folks. Don't worry if there was another shooter. Bet on it. See, you shouldn't be focused on a shooter, JFK style, trying to solve this. You know what you should be focused on? Why were there so many failures allowed to happen? They're going to serve you little things to run in a rabbit hole. And if you let your mind get wrapped up with that, well, it was at the exact angle, at the exact time. And if you add them all up, they add to 137, you divide it by 21, stop that crap. Focus on one thing. It was allowed to happen due to breach in protocol and security failures. Always focus on the government. Keep your heat there, because they're trying to get your heat other places. And that is called the Delution Protocol, which is what they put into effect.
Yeah, it is very suspicious, right? There could be two people shooting from a very similar angle. One of them happens to be dead. You'll never get answers out of that person. How convenient, right?
I'm still waiting to see the forensics on the autopsy kid, because his front teeth were blown out. Now, let me state that again. His front teeth were blown out, not in. And then if it was a headshot and I'm looking at the roof, number one, I can see where he clearly is 2 foot from the ground. That's supposedly where the shot took place, 2 foot from the crown ridge of the building, which is plausible. When you see the video later, he's moved in excess of 20 feet backwards, and the blood trail from his head goes another 30 feet down and off the building. You don't bleed out if it's a kill shot. There's no blood. That's a kill shot. That's how you know. How did he bleed out?
Yeah, I've wondered that because there's no like blood splatter. It was literally like a little stream of blood.
That means you bled out, right?
Yeah.
That's why it was still dark and gooey and thick. That's a steady line of bleed. But remember, it's drying as it goes, and it's supposedly on a hot roof. Well, think about how much had to go to get all the way down to the end. If it was a headshot, folks, here's the reality, and I'm horrible that I know this personally, but when it's a headshot, it isn't red, it's pink, right? And it's chunky because it's a headshot, but it's primarily pinkish white, not red, not like you think. And so he wasn't shot in an automatic kill shot, or he would have not bled out. The only way he could have bled that far is if all the blood was in his head, which is totally impossible. There are many, 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 many questions I still have regarding the forensics of what really happened.
But will we actually get the truth? Yes,
I hear they're gonna release it with the JFK files.
Yeah.
Look, you and I are sitting here, and we'd love that report. And it's 62 years later. Yeah. I want you to think about that, folks.
Yeah.
They clearly identify who they really are and what they really do just by that lack of information.
Wouldn't the teeth blown out, even if it was a headshot, be from behind?
That you caught the point that why I'm so concerned about it. Yeah. I'm looking at it. I'm looking at his right incisors, I guess that's number what, 9 and 10, blown out and up to the right, and the rest missing. That's a headshot that's going to catch you right in the pocket of your skull here at a very slight angle, maybe a deflection from the base of the skull, which means they would be a little higher shooting down, which would deflect from the skull and come out right about there where it is. It wouldn't be from the front, and it certainly wouldn't be from the forehead. And I don't think he knocked his tooth out or was trying to pull teeth on the building and then said, screw it, I can't get that tooth out, and then laid down to shoot. Do you?
Yeah, let me get rid of my my dental imprint.
Right. Oh, screw it. I just got it out to here, but I'm going to stop.
Are you familiar with Dr. Chris Martenson? He's doing a lot of the forensic on the audio of the different shooting.
I've seen it. Thus far, I agree with it. I totally agree with the cadence and compression issue. It was good to use sound. We did the same thing. Sound creates a fingerprint. You can see the multiple shots from multiple rifles, and it's dead on from the suppression standpoint that it came from the inside. One of the things I said early is we probably need to look for a Malvo type concealment. And if you remember, that was the DC sniper shooting through the keyhole of the trunk, and they just laid in the car, removed the little badge on the car and shot through it, and then covered her back and laid on the trunk. There's a Malvo element to this.
Wow. Yeah. Because when I had him come on my show, and we went through that, and I could clearly hear a difference.
Right.
But then because I've been dealing with my cardiologist lately, I was also like, these look like two different heartbeats, right?
It's exactly how you should look at them. The waveform vectors, the vector scope of the waveforms look like a heartbeat, and through that you get a signature.
What else has caught your attention? I didn't know that you were looking into this, so now I'm very curious since I have you on here.
Well, I have a really good program that's called Cut the Crap, Culture, Race, and American Politics. Yeah. I came out the next morning and started on the forensics. I just look at it from a logical standpoint. No assumptions about what happened. We just know a shooting happened. Then from there, you let the forensics tell you the story. And of course, I can see the cross-angulation involved. I can see that President Trump's out here, but they've got the large stand wrapped around him. That's part of the security measure, by the way. And I can see with the 3 people that got hit in the audience, it would come from that side because this person here got clipped. And then 2 over here got clipped, and it hit the rails, and it hit the hydraulics on the left, which was holding the speakers. That's all directional to the same place to me. Here's what concerns me. That shot was so precise that it was professional. Now you have to understand what you're dealing with. You're dealing with a high-speed but subsonic bullet, which is a smaller signature, which means you have to literally be dead on. And the best forensic of that scene is the nick at the front of the ear and the nick at the back of the ear. It came through perfectly level. No angle to it. Perfectly level. Hell, you could have stuck a ruler in the side of POTUS's head, right? And that tells me a very steady, timed right shot, but only by an act of God when he's there, and it would have popped them in the right place. This is where you want to hit it. Not even there with a small subsonic, because it can deflect. If there's a slight turn, it's right there in your soft temple tissue. And just that one very slight turn off took it from that kill area right to his ear level. That particular forensic bothers me. When you have 5 to 8 shots in between, basically, to me, that's cover shots for disarray to hide the kill shot. And so it was kill shot first, bunch of other chatter after the fact to cover it.
Yeah, Chris Martinson said, it's almost like the first 3 were really controlled, super professional, because he's shown those audio waves to professional shooters.
Boom, boom, boom.
Yeah. And those were very controlled. And then there's 5 that are not controlled. Right?
Right.
And that's where it looks like 2 different shooters, 2 different sounds, 2 different heartbeats, 2 different guns.
And it's to cause confusion and chaos, which they need for cover to run away.
And they say within 15 seconds of the first shot, the counter sniper gets a miracle shot through this really difficult place right into the head. That also is not making sense to me.
I watched the sniper that they said took him out. That is not what I see. I watched both him and his spotter. They thought they were being shot at. When you see that one sniper that's assigned directly behind President Trump, right? And they had this open pizza slice. They should have seen it. But yes, there was a tree there. This was all very well planned. They're scoping to try to see what they hear the chatter on the ear, but the kid's conveniently behind a tree. He's scoping his optic, looking between his long-range optic and his short-range optic, and he's doing this. And then he looks up to think, what am I seeing? And you see him jump with the shot, and you see the tip of his barrel go up because he does this. He didn't take that shot. His spotter, who's laying right next to him, right, flat, prone, he recoils back, kind of in a crouch. They didn't take the shots. I still want to know who took them out. And I think that's why we're not seeing autopsy. And I think that might solve the mystery of which direction did the kill bullet come from. I'm not convinced it was that frontal shot by a sniper, and I'm not convinced it was at all for any reason a headshot. And simple forensics proves that. The kid would not have bled out like that with a professionally placed 308, which is what the snipers had at that distance, that had taken off half his head.
Well, the other thing is if his feet are sloped down and his head's sloped up, to get that amount of blood, that blood's got to pump back up to the injury and then come back down, right?
And have the continual feed momentum to keep on pushing blood, which congeals fast on a hot tin roof. It's going to get thicker and thicker, but it continued to push it all the way down the ramp. Oh, then by the way, don't forget, and this is part of the forensics I did on the blood and DNA part of it. They did not follow any standard with bioremediation, which means how do you deal with blood on the scene? Didn't do hazmat triage, didn't do bioremediation, and within hours, it was the FBI on top of the building washing all the evidence away. They washed the building.
Yeah, that was the other thing. I was like, this roof is so steep that someone from the FBI can stand up there with a hose and wash all the blood away.
Well, I don't think it as much was about the blood evidence. Let me tell you what I think about. When I did my analytics on the blood and the DNA, and when I did that program, I showed people what a footprint looks like on these roofs. This is not normal traffic on the roof. So they leave a footprint. And so what I would have done immediately if I was director of Secret Service, first thing I would have done is I would have gone to every plausible building in the area. You interview everybody and you ask them the following. Number one, has anybody ever been on the building doing a repair? You'll either find out they did or they didn't. If you find out they did, you're going to find out when and where and what it was. You're going to say, have you been on the roof? Have you ever been outside? Pay attention. Have you ever been outside and taken a piss on this side of the building? Now, why would I ask that? Because that's where they washed the DNA. Okay? Because I'm already thinking I'm going to have to pick this shit up off the ground, right? But what I would find is right behind me with the Trump team, I am ostensibly going to high-def photograph that roof. Now, what am I going to see? I'm going to see what I can 100% confirm are absolutely fresh footprints on a roof where people don't hang out. So I'm now going to be able to establish what a fresh footprint looks like on a dusty roof. Now, let's say I found a building quarter-mile distant, same type of roof, and we find out they were doing air condition repair, right? And they had somebody up there 9 months ago. Again, you document the roof. We look at it. We look at the feet prints that are up there. Now I'm going to know the difference between immediate and 9 months. Now I got something to measure against, right? Which means all of those roofs that came into play, I can tell within the window within 9 months was somebody up there. And I guarantee you why they were washing the roof had nothing to do with DNA. It had to do, there were more footprints than people as they planned it and walked it all out. That's why they washed the roof. And forensics would have proven it, but they violated every protocol.
But yeah, they don't want. And how about them showing up so unprepared for this congressional hearing? It's like it looks so suspicious when they can't answer questions for Congress.
I think when we were looking at the lady that everybody referred to as the DEI hire, and I agree, I think she had to make a simple choice. Do I die for my country? Or do I claim ignorance? And I think she was more than willing to make herself look like a fool, that she would play the game, knowing she was going to get canned and they could just leave her alone and she never has to say anything again. That's the choice I think she made.
And she still gets her salary, so, oh gosh. Well, I really hope that we get answers on that. I'd be very curious to know what Donald Trump is thinking and doing behind the scenes, because publicly he's saying, I'm grateful for the Secret Service. I still trust the Secret Service. The lady that helped me, I still trust her, but I do wonder behind the scenes if he's going, how do we get to the truth on why I was shot?
It would be a fool, and President Trump's not a fool, to say the Secret Service, see them, that's fake Secret Service. He'd never do that. The second part of it is when you look at the protocol that should have happened, President Trump's a big guy. I'm 6'2". He's even taller than me, right? He's a big guy. And like when I go to Mar-a-Lago and met with them, I know those Secret Service guys that were there that their heads were higher than him and they've got their hands up trying to cover him. That's exact protocol. I want to know at the last minute, why did they swap him out with women that were almost 1.5 feet shorter, where his head is exposed? There's a lot more to look at than planned. In his face, the two things that were monumental to me, watching his face pop up and say fight, he was pissed. He was freaking pissed. If he'd have had the guy in front of him, you would have seen Donald J. Trump rip the freaking head off. He was pissed. That was anger. But then when you see him, when he came out at convention the first time and you see him walking through the hall and everybody says he looks sick and sad. No, he was just about to bust into tears. He was fighting back tears because he is so in love with America and the American people. And he's so thankful he has you. And that man, you brought him to tears and support. And he was just like overwhelmed with incredible joy. So he was fighting back the tears. That's the man. Everything's wrong with everything that happened. But folks, it's not over. You know what? 3 hours ago, maybe from when we're doing this, King Jordan came out and basically said that we will block any rockets we find coming to Israel. Greece and Crete just closed their airspace that's starting this evening. Something's cooking. Something's cooking. And it can't be good. But hold on to your boots, folks. I think it's coming.
Yeah, I agree. All right. I know it's not cooking, but it is gardening. I wanted to hear about this new book that you have out.
Oh, yeah. We've been very good to have 2 bestseller books this year. And this is Countdown to Chaos. And even though it has President Trump and the selected, non-elected one on the cover, it's about December or about November election backwards, not about what happened in election, but how they set all of this up. And so you got to understand, if you and I were bad guys and we wanted to swing the election, what do we need? We need information, because you can't break the numbers. You got to know where you have inventory, what you can do. That shows you how they did it, who, what, when, and where, and how they planned it. I've always told you, CYA, cover your booty, folks. And it's a gardening book. It's not a recipe book. It's a gardening book, and it's called the Food Forest Bible. And what this is very simple. There is ancient biblical knowledge on feeding people. You think, how'd they survive in the desert? Well, a food forest is how you plant food, your garden, a very certain way in 8 layers to create what's called a microclimate. The oldest one in the world has been feeding the entire community for 4,000 years. So basically what I've done is I've put together the information, because it had never been put together in one place, to create this thing called the Food Forest Bible. It walks you through. It's a full color book. It's massive. Every plant, here's the insects you need. Here's how you do this. Here's how you do the layers. To design your own food forest, whether you have a side yard, backyard, only front yard, a lot, or land, you plan it in a way to create food that will continually propagate, self-sustain, and create food security. You'll plan it with your family. That's why it's kind of like a coffee table book. But if you plant this right, even in a regular yard, you're gonna feed your family 20, 30, 40, 50 years. If you do it right, follow the formula. I tell you everything to do it. It's very easy, even to the point you don't need to use pesticides. I'll show you the bugs that are good bugs, assassin bugs. Ironic, we're talking about assassins. But I'll also show you how to do your whole garden and never dig and never weed. It's actually ancient technology resurrected that hasn't been polluted by the pesticide and the seed companies, and it's how you can take care of yourself. So it's called the Food Forest Bible. All of them had hard copies, soft copies. This is in color. It's an expensive book or ebook, but this one is designed to take with you out to the garden. Super hard copy. So both of them had hit the bestsellers, and thank you, folks. But it's basically CYA. If everything goes to hell in the handbasket, how are you going to feed yourself? It ain't in the grocery store. So you better start preparing now. And by the way, if President Trump gets in and we get some of this fixed, don't think the system's not going to try it again. You still need to make sure you're prepared, and maybe you have 4 years to really get prepared before they really try to do it on us. But we survived World War I and II by victory gardens. By victory gardens, folks. Look up your history. I'm bringing it back to life in a very easy to read, large print. Look at a lot of photos. Wonderful book.
Okay, great. I'm excited for people to be able to get that. I'm going to put a direct link to both the books, as well as your Rumble show and also your Twitter account, so that people can stay up to date. Thank you so much for all of the information coming on. This was really insightful. I appreciate it. I hope you have a great rest of your day.